going to use them. You know, I've asked this question in this same building to generals, admirals, diplomats, all kinds of people with high status in the military, and nobody raised their hand either. And I asked the same question in a war college in Haryana. I believe it was in Rohtak. And I was with Commodore Vaskar when I did that. But I don't think it's a fair question, because I think what we're missing and what we have to understand today with respect to North Korea is context. Communication takes place in a context called who would be willing to use nuclear weapons, and if yes, in which context would you be willing? Okay, so what might happen in North Korea? It depends. Nobody knows. Okay, so we're looking at experts who say, well, there's a 50-50 chance of war. Well, what kind of war? A conventional war or a nuclear war? If it's a conventional war, 300,000 people will die in the first 3 or 4 days. And if it's a nuclear war, 1 million people will die on the first day. That's what we're talking about. Okay? Not an easy subject. It's, in a way, it's tougher than air pollution. But the insight I had yesterday after speaking to an audience here is that the President of the United States has asked a question. He has asked a particular question, which is, why, if we have nuclear weapons, are we afraid to use them? Can you answer the question? I'll repeat. Why, if we have nuclear weapons, are we afraid to use them? Global destruction. Destroy everything. We don't want to die. We want to live. Actually, end of Earth.
Reaction. Afraid of reaction.
Say it again.
Afraid of the reaction of that bomb.
The reaction to the bomb. The consequences. Yeah, absolutely. Look at the consequences of your action, right? And look at the unintended consequences. You know that Russia and China are partially involved in this situation. And that was the same when I was on nuclear weapon duty. We had an engagement with the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong. We were transferring our pilots to Vietnam, each of whom would go on 100 bombing missions, right? And they were being replaced by pilots who had been on 100 bombing missions and had come from Vietnam. And I'll tell you right now, if you've never been around a mobilization for war, people change and personalities change. And it's not the same person who's on peaceful nuclear weapon duty as the person who is on nuclear weapon duty in time of crisis. And I resolved at that one point, I said, I do never want to be around nuclear weapons in times of real potential for the use of the weapons. Because people go, excuse me, there's a talk going on over here. Excuse me, Dr. Trivedi. Dr. Trivedi? Dr. Trivedi. Dr. Rai. I'm addressing you personally, saying, what I'm saying is, okay, my insight from yesterday's talk was this. I don't know what my insight will be from today. But I'm wondering, is Donald Trump, our president in the United States, is he the guy who wants to break the nuclear weapon taboo? I'm afraid of that. You know, basically, I can't walk up to somebody today and say, I think there will be a nuclear war. I don't know that. Nobody knows that. I kind of think there won't be. But is he saying, with his question, he asked this question 3 times, why, if we have nuclear weapons, are we afraid to use them? Is he saying in that question, I'm not afraid to use nuclear weapons? Is that what he wants to say? Now, there is a taboo. Do you understand the taboo? I have a book here, it's written, it's called The Third Bomb. Why the third bomb? Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah, you're quick-minded. You're quick. You know what I'm talking about. And for me, all nuclear weapons in the world today are the third bomb. And that's the one that cannot be used. There's only one bomb that cannot be used. It's a third bomb. So if there are 15 or 16,000 nuclear weapons in the world today, they're all the third bomb. So who has the responsibility to prevent that use? Now Trump has been bashing everybody, and I call him a wrecking ball president. Yeah, wrecking ball, you know, when you want to demolish a building, you take a wrecking ball and you hammer it until it's into bits and then pulverized. And he has hammered women, athletes, judges, journalists, African Americans, Mexicans, Muslims. He's trying to pull the United States out of the COP21 climate treaty. He's a destroyer. And he's got a guy who's one of his advisors named Stephen Bannon. And I have to know more about Bannon because I think Bannon might be the guy who's telling Trump, you've got to use the nuke. You've got to be the guy who breaks the taboo. Because these people do not want restraints. Do you understand what that means? They do not want to be impeded in their activities, in their actions. They want liberty and justice for all. That's an American motto. But it seems like the other ones are good. Okay, I think I've probably spoken at length, much too long, so what's the answer to the ditty, to the poem? Don't put oil in it, don't put coal. Not if you want to meet
America. USA.
Environmental goal?
yeah,
India.
an environmental goal. Coal, goal, you got it. So you went a round trip to my native place, which is planet Earth. I'm the CEO, and if you join me here, you'll be there. My native place is right here, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad you all had a chance to hear me.